Today, we're talking to Alfie. Cheers. I hope you like it.
I'm sure I will. I'll have to. Yeah, lovely.
So I usually start with a quick fire just to kind of get into it and to make us like feel in the space. Nickname. Do you have one?
Chappelle.
Pen or pencil?
Pencil mainly. My writing's normally a bit better with pencil. Yeah.
Spring or autumn?
Autumn.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Lark or night owl?
Night owl probably. Yeah.
Sweet or savoury?
Savoury.
Forest or desert?
Forest.
Abstract or figurative?
Abstract.
Minimalist or maximalist?
In between.
And if anything, what are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading The Tao of Art by Ben Willis. Yeah.
What do you listen to when you get in here? Like what do you to make you feel in the zone?
It ranges from so many different things. I love electronic, I love folk, I love like Doom, like Black Sabbath, and then Pentangle, and then Kraftwerk. I love all sorts of music, loads and loads. It kind of goes through a few weeks of listening to a certain thing, and then that has a big influence on my work. I find painting and music go perfectly together, and I find there's only a few moments where I feel like you don't need any music. Well, I don't need any music, but I find when I listen to music and painting, it just kind of frees up movement a bit more. You kind of get to the rhythm with it, but like find your rhythm within the rhythm of the music.
And then when you're in that rhythm, like do you stay here all day, or do you or what are your kind of hours?
I'd say I try to do 9, get here for 9, but I normally get here about 10, half 10. And I end up staying until about 6, 7. Yeah.
When you get in here and what do you start with? Like what's your routine?
Set the music up. Set the music up, and then I turn the heaters on.
Does it get quite cold?
Yeah, it gets freezing. But recently it's been quite warm, but I'd say that's definitely the start, and then let's get painting. Yeah.
We're in your space today, like we're doing this interview. Where, like, do you let people in, or is it really like a very private space usually?
I mean, I don't mind a little party here every now and then. I've had people back. It's quite fun. But normally, I like it to be private, yeah. Well, not private, that's not the wrong word. Just like kind of like solitary maybe. I like to be a bit solitary when I paint.
Thinking about your like work creation, we're sitting in front of some of your works. Like, how do you start? Like, do you plan a lot before, or does it just come out? Like, how do you feel?
So there's a few different ways that I've been doing recently. Sometimes I just go straight in, don't have a plan, see what comes out, and I find that has a much more expressive outcome. Mm-hmm. But I've also take parts of my paintings, my previous paintings, some pictures I like of other things, put them in Photoshop, and then I kind of like manipulate them, change them about, kind of draw through Photoshop. And then that's kind of how I've been doing these. And it's almost like you can paint a painting before you paint it, and try so many different things before you actually go to do it. But then you find once you do it, so much stuff that you thought you'd do in the drawing you don't include anyway. But that's the most efficient way I've been doing recently.
And do you go straight onto the canvas with the paint?
Yeah.
So no pencil?
No. Sometimes if I want to get in exact shape, I just pencil it. But if not, I just try and do it.
Do you ever find that you have a kind of writer's block or painter's block, in a sense?
Yeah, I do, but I feel like I haven't for a while, but I feel like as long as you continue making work and don't stop, like even if it's just drawing or writing something or just doing anything creative really, even if you go for a walk and then go for a walk every day until you figure something out, I feel like as long as you just keep working at it, you're not going to get writer's block. It's when you stop and you start to panic, that's when it all kind of crumbles. Yeah.
When you're working through your ideas and what you're doing, do you have the viewer, the audience in mind, the people?
I think a big part of my practice is how the paintings will affect the psyche of the viewer. So I play around, or it's more like I try and put as much positive energy into the work, physically, mentally, and just in every possible way I can do it to put energy into the work. I try to indulge within it, and then hopefully that has a knock-on effect onto the viewer once they see it in wherever, whether it's online, in a show. I want the work to have a effect that creates a certain level of peace, but also to kind of disrupts slightly. So that, because you can't constantly be in peace, otherwise nothing ever moves or changes. I feel like there needs to be some sort of disruption, but not like, the disruption doesn't have to be negative. It's just some sort of chaos to get things moving.
To get like a feeling, to create a kind of feeling within someone.
Because I find if you're making work that's just constantly serene and beautiful looking, it kind of becomes, and like you're like with that kind of energy that I'm trying to put into it, it kind of becomes like this boring kind of thing. It's a boring piece of work that just doesn't really have any solidarity in what I'm actually trying to put across.
And how do you know when a work's finished? Like, how do you know when there's enough disruption in it that you can get it out?
It's just like, sometimes it's sort of like you do one last little mark and it all suddenly goes and it just works, yeah.
When the work's done, you kind of have to bring it to the wider world. How have you found navigating the art world?
I found it all right. I think I've had people there helping me. I've had experiences where you learn a lot of things. I think both positive and negative. But I feel like as long as you keep doing it and keep getting yourself out there, going to shows. That's what I found. Just going to shows, talking to people. It kind of just keeps that conversation, keeps you on the scene, keeps you visible. I think that's the best way I've found to do it.
Have you found the kind of like business side of it or the quite difficult, or how have you found it? Because it's a different world out there.
I mean, I've had to. It's something that I think should have been taught at uni or at school really earlier. But like how to invoice and stuff like that, a lot of people have found just don't know how to do that or aren't taught how to do that. And then your taxes. I find that is the main thing. Them two things. Is that every artist should know, but you're not taught that. And it's like, that's the most integral part of starting as an artist. And in the beginning is being aware of your finances. Yeah.
How do you find that navigating the art world with social media affects you and your art?
I find it's quite a blessing and curse, social media, like because it can. With me, I feel like it's helped. I think I love the fact that the world is so connected now. You can see someone's work who's in China, India, or whatever, all the way around the world just by looking at it. And art world has never really had that, ever. And I think that in turn creates this whole new unity within it, but also so much stuff is going on that I find through Instagram, good stuff is sometimes lost to the algorithm, sorry. And then some work that's not such more commercial, not so good work, I suppose, picked up. And I find that can play on people's mental health, I think, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But with me, I find it's just got to keep pushing through and keep doing it and just focus on the positive. I try and do that, and then the way my work's perceived and through, because I find people can get so transfixed on the likes and that. It doesn't matter, does it? I find
so you feel you've got to distance yourself from it, in a sense?
Yeah, distance yourself from the perception of what you think other people are perceiving it as. I think that's the main thing.
But do you think that it kind of like creates a community?
I think it's like, because now we can see artwork from all around the world just with a few clicks, and I think that's the most beautiful thing about it, like, because everything's connected now.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates such a diverse art, like it's like a massive art community across the world now, rather than it would be just small places. Now everything is connected, and art is changing with AI, with just everything's changing. And I think it's a very exciting time, as the world has never been so connected, and it's changing everything for the positive. That
change, obviously it's all changed, like, there's been a lot of change since you were at art school, and if you were reflecting and if you could tell your younger self this was a great piece of advice and this was a terrible piece of advice that someone gave you, what would you say?
If I was to tell my younger self at uni, I'd say stop drinking and focus more on what you're actually doing and stop doing the same thing. That's what I'd say. Yeah. I got caught in a rut, I think. And I had a tutor just came, yeah, you're doing it right, so continue doing what you're doing. That's like the worst advice I could have ever got. When I should have been just doing everything, experimenting. Yeah.
And do you think that at that time you had like a mentor or someone who got you to the place where you are now, or helped you along the way?
I think my brother was like an inspiration, because he's a few steps ahead, and then like just seeing that as a positive, like just positive affirmation for me to keep on going. Yeah. And then my sister as well, she helps.
Yeah, it's so lovely that you're like kind of bound together with your work. If you were to give anyone coming up today, after all this change has happened, what would you say to them?
Just try and find your true self within your work, and don't dwell on what other people are making. And as soon as you feel jealous or some negative feeling towards that, figure out why you're feeling that. Because normally when you feel jealousy, it's what you want. So try and translate into that feeling into something that can push your work forward.
Yeah, taking that idea of like pushing your work forward and looking forward and kind of dreaming a little bit. Where do you see your work going? Where do you see yourself going? Like, what hopes do you have for yourself?
I'm open to the world taking me wherever I need to go, really. But I think immediately I'm very interested in more abstract figures, more abstract shapes, more colour, like these, like that work in progress, and that one's finished. I'm loving the space. I'm loving the balance of darkness and the foreground. I feel like I've continuing in this vein for a while, and I'm really figuring out myself a lot more, really coming into my own work. Yeah.
And if you could, go for dinner with anyone who is like an inspiration to you, dead or alive, and just ask questions and say, how did you do it? How would you do this? Who would it be? Do you have anyone?
I think I'd probably go with Hilma af Klint. Yeah, like just because she she's one of my favourite artists there's ever been. And I find that her work, for when it was made, her triumphs, everything that was kind of made at the time. And I think her story is so beautiful about it, I'd love to know the ins and outs, really, of how it was all done.
If you could be in an exhibition with anyone, dead or alive, would it still be Klimt, or would it be...
No, I think I'd probably do it with Mark Rothko. Yeah. Or Henry Moore.
I could actually really
I feel
see
like,
Henry Moore work.
Henry Moore probably more. Only because I think, the two would work. I think Rothko maybe would drown me out.
When you're thinking about like future exhibitions and future shows and things like that, like how do you get ready for that? How do you prepare for an exhibition?
I think at first I kind of just paint, and then once I get a few paintings on the go, everything starts to connect, and but what I'm thinking about at the time, the research, I kind of try and build something with that, and then normally some sort of idea forms. But I always find that the work, like, there doesn't need to be such a reason or a specific idea for a show. I always find it's always a bit like when you're at school and you've got to try and make an excuse for why you've done a piece of art. I find that the art should just speak for itself, and it doesn't always need this big grandiose meaning, because most of the time people don't even read it anyway. So I try not to dwell so much on what it actually is and more about what their paintings are. Yeah. And I find the painters should be able to speak for themselves. You shouldn't need to have to give reason to it through words.
And disrupt the viewer.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you feel to like let go of a piece to someone else?
I mean, it's hard when I really like painting, yeah, definitely. But to know that I try to charge it with as much positive energy as possible, and I hope that my love for it is carried down. So hopefully that outweighs the other energy that is in there, that fills the room. Yeah. When
it leaves the studio, is it a nice saying goodbye, or?
Yeah, it's like just being grateful for it, really, in every way. It's sad, but then I often end up seeing them again somehow. So you just got to trust that I'll see it again one day.
Yeah, well, they say you always meet twice in life.
There you go.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Alfie, for
great.
taking the time. It's really lovely to hear you speak, and very inspirational.